Hello, everyone, and welcome to our November's board meeting. I first of all want to start by thanking everyone. Since we did start a little late this afternoon, I'd like to call to order this meeting. It is now 4:13 p.m. And we'll go ahead and start off with roll call. My name is Amber Solorzano and I am present. Angela Helton. Present. David McGovern.
Present.
Sarah Hayworth.
Present.
Dina Cusies.
Present.
Olivia Duran.
Present.
Craig Wilson.
Present.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. If we can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. All right, thank you. And before we go ahead and move on for the approval of the agenda and the minutes, Santa Clarita and Redlands, can you both confirm that you can hear us loud and clear?
Santa Clarita can hear you.
Redlands can hear.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, ladies. With that said, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
I am Amber Solorzano and I approve. Angela Helton,
I approve.
David McGovern,
I approve.
Sarah Hayworth,
I approve.
Dina Cusies.
Aye.
Thank you. The ayes have it. Can I also get a motion to approve the minutes?
I motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, I'm Amber Solorzano and I approve. Angela Helton,
Aye.
David McGovern,
Aye.
Sarah Hayworth,
Aye.
Dina Cusies.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you so much. Now, I do believe that we have some communication from the public. Are we ready with that? Okay. Let's go ahead and start off with Redlands first. Is our Redlands speaker ready?
We don't have anybody here.
We don't. Okay, Santa Clarita, do we have anybody? I'm sorry. Do we have any?
Sorry, I couldn't get myself off mute. No, we do not have anyone in Santa Clarita.
Okay, thank you so much for confirming. Now we'll
Of course.
do Lancaster, and I believe we have one speaker tonight.
Good evening, members of the board. I would like to formally introduce myself. My name is Ella Orozco, and I have been with Gorman since 2019 and proud to be one of the very few Latinas who work here. I have deeply invested in the school, not only as an employee, but also personally by enrolling my own sibling into Gorman. I am here today because I believe in this organization and its mission, but I also believe that when there are issues within our organization, it is our responsibility to address them openly and honestly. I am standing before you because, while there are many dedicated employees who care deeply about Gorman, there are others who feel silenced and neglected. Employees are afraid to speak up due to fear of retaliation. Over the past few months, I have reported not only bullying, physical assault, and favoritism, but also privacy concerns. Yet my experience in speaking up has not been met with a support or resolution promised by the executive director. I am bringing these concerns to you today because they are not isolated incidents. It has come to light that sensitive, private matters disclosed to HR are being shared without consent. This includes leaking confidential information, such as private medical records. This is not only a clear breach of privacy, but also a legal violation. HR should be a safe space where staff can express concerns, but instead it has become a source of distrust. I urge the board to take immediate action by mandating further leadership training for both the executive director and HR director. We are experiencing breaches of privacy, lack of professionalism, and a culture allowing bullying and favoritism to flourish. As educators, is this the example we want to set for our students? That those in position of power can disregard privacy, mistreat others, and play favorites without consequence? This is not the message we should be sending. There must be a higher standard if we are to lead by example. I come to you today because this is a personnel issue that demands your urgent attention. You have the ability of providing necessary training, enforcing legal compliance, and holding leaders accountable. I urge you to take this call for action seriously so that we can restore trust and create a safe, inclusive, and supportive environment for all. I leave you with this. As leaders, you have the power to shape not only the policies of this organization, but also the lives of every individual who is a part of it. We must ask ourselves, what kind of environment are we fostering if we allow bullying, favoritism, and the disregard of privacy to go unchecked? Nelson Mandela once said, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. But how can we use that power effectively if our organization is not in order? If we do not provide a safe and supportive space for our staff, how can we expect to inspire and uplift the young minds we serve?" I trust that you will take the necessary steps to address these urgent concerns for the betterment of Gorman. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ella, for speaking at tonight's meeting. Do we have anybody else? That was just the one. Okay, thank you. Moving on to comments from board members concerning items not on the agenda. Do we have any board members that would like to speak on this? Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda, can I get a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I'm Amber and I approve. Angela?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Dina?
Aye.
Thank you. The ayes have it. Now moving on to report and communication to the Board of Directors presented by Olivia Duran.
Hello, board members. In the executive report, I'll just go over this quickly, let you guys have the opportunity to read, but I did want to recognize we had our CASP awards ceremony for both GLC and SBSC and recognized those students that scored, that made improvement from one step to another or also scored in the top 1% of California. So I want to acknowledge them. In GLC, we had Addison Lee. She scored 1% for ELA. Desmond Mitchell scored 1% for math. And SBSC, we had White Klaus for science, Gemma Luki for math, Silas Munn he scored 1% in ELA and math, Maxine Reyes scored 1% for science in the top 1%, Jace Ruby, top 1% for math, and Nicole Tang, top 1% for ELA and math. So we just want to congratulate them. They were acknowledged in the award ceremony, but I wanted to make sure that you guys as board members and the public also were acknowledged here. So it was a great accomplishment. There's not, that test we know doesn't necessarily show all of their abilities, but it is a marker to show that they're able to retain that information and then perform well. I also wanted to acknowledge a few of the PLTs, Andrea Gutierrez, Dina Hobart, Jenny Patey, Kelly Newman, and Nicole Elias. They all had a roughly 30% or more of their students rostered were in the CASP Awards ceremony. So that means they either made growth or they scored in that top tier. So we just wanted to congratulate them and show that their efforts in how they communicated the importance of the CASP test to their families made a difference to our school. Moving forward, we just returned from A+. We had about 10 of our employees attend. That was in Anaheim. We had Ms. Callie Combs, who's here with us tonight, and Christina Sanchez present on CTE and SPED and how the CTE programs and grants can actually help those SPED students, and not to think that our CTE program is only for a certain population, but that we can be inclusive and equitable across the board with all of our students. Thank you, Callie and Christina. We also had Heather and Jana, who's here with us tonight. They presented on our MTSS system and how some of those supports, they were able to give scenarios of possible student situations and things. And the group that was in that session, they said it was very helpful and very entertaining. But they also got a lot out of it because they were, if you have a student who's a third grader who's having a hard time reading, what would the next steps be? Sort of finding those challenges and working through them. So it was great to have our Gorman represented there at A+ in those sessions. So thank you to those that presented. Next week, we have a small group of people going up to Sacramento for CSDC. Dina is one. We have, as representing the board, because there's a lot of board governance, we had Sarah attend last year and Amber attended last year. So it'll be exciting to come back and report on that next board meeting. Our IT department is heading down to San Diego next week for an IT, so they can have the latest and the greatest in what is going on with IT and security. And then moving on to PLT updates at the A+ conference, we found there was a couple things that RDs have been working on. Starting next year, we need to offer ethnic studies to all of our students. So by the time they graduate in 2030, they will have that requirement met. There'll be curriculum and things that are chosen, and we can bring them to a public session where there's public comment. So if there's families or anything that want to comment on that curriculum, then they have that opportunity, and we can, bring a couple of those before we actually offer those to the students next year. And also another thing coming up is dyslexia screening. So starting next year, August 2025, every kindergarten, first grade, and second grader will need to be screened for dyslexia. And dyslexia is not, could be multiple learning disabilities. It's not just one thing. So before they actually go into be assessed for SPED or just automatically say, here, you're dyslexic, the state now is asking that every school, every kindergartner, first grader, second grader, within 45 days be screened for dyslexia, and that we would also have implemented a structured reading program. So teaching those kids how to read phonics, phonemes, putting those sounds together, making meaning out of them. So we're looking into some of those screeners that the state is saying these work and what's going to work best for our population and our model. So we know that they're not in a classroom where they can just easily pull a group together and screen them, but make sure that it works for the PLTs and everyone involved. Now to the resource centers. Santa Clarita, they had the Great Shakeout Earthquake Drill October 17th. It looks like they went to the bowling alley. Junior high's girls softball team has been undefeated, so congratulations to them. That's a great feat. October 28th through the 31st, they had their costume and book fair. In your report there, it has a couple of their costumes there, and they had their fall festival August 31st. At the Redlands Resource Center, tonight they're doing their fall festival. They cut off the front parking lot, and they had the kids out there playing their drum line. They have a music ensemble that goes out and plays drums and guitar, and had a couple vendors, a face painting. ASB is there selling food. So if you get a chance on Parent Square for SBSC, they did some of the kids did a commercial advertising the fall festival. So just really allowing them to show their creativity and to use that as an opportunity to promote what's going on at the Redlands Resource Center. This Friday, Redlands Resource Center is doing a food drive. So the kids have been donating dry goods. They worked with another organization to donate turkeys and other canned food for families. And that is for all the families in Redlands, first come, first serve. So that's tomorrow from 11 to 1. They'll be there distributing food. Another highlight from Redlands, Mr. Martin, who is our supervisor there at Redlands Resource Center, was able to join a Redlands Unified School Board meeting. And this is some of that strategic planning going forward into getting that charter renewed and allowing the physical Redlands Resource Center to continue to stay in the building that we have there, is to get the Redlands School Board to okay us to be there. So he was able to sit through the meeting, took some notes. As he was walking back to his car, all the board members were walking behind him, shook his hand, like he started talking to him, sort of starting to build those relationships. He invited him to the fall festival. So just a small step, but at the same time, it's trying to build that relationship and get let our name be known. And so that way, when we do go to them and ask them to approve us to physically be there, they know who we are. And it's not just, oh, that's you. So shout out to Mr. Martin for doing that for us and for the Redlands community there. Antelope Resource Center. AV, their boys volleyball varsity is beginning to practice. We have our high school cross-country team now competing for CIF. That was one of those things that I know Coach Darla was working really hard to make work because it was part of being in CIF. They needed to have a girls and a boys. So they now have 4, it looks like, cross-country runners that are competing. As you see here in the room, Fall Festival banners. So to promote their Fall Festival, the kids got together and created the banners. We were just commenting on how great that was. And then there's some pictures in there of the Fall Festival, some of the upcoming things at AV. They have CIF games coming up, winter formals. I've seen posters for the Science Olympiad, so that's Christina Miller's doing that. So if you have families here at AV that are want to show off their science knowledge, make sure you sign up for that. Open houses coming up and family night. AV is also having a food drive and a jacket drive. So as a PLT, Miss Jamie sent in the chat in Google to sign up your families if there's anyone there that I believe needs to have, there's not a date on that as of yet, but that'll be on Parent Square. So AV is also doing a food jacket drive. CTE updates. So at the Redlands Resource Center, we have a plant and soil class. They're doing a great job. They have a whole classroom set up. There's a little greenhouse out front. And so they're starting to grow carrots and lettuce and onions, eggplants and celery. So it'll be exciting to see all that happens there, sort of that having a virtual CTE program, when you're able to have that in person, it's really exciting to see the kids actually doing things hands-on together as a class. So great job there. Our agricultural program, our FFA CTSO updates, we had 6 student officers nominated and announced. Mason G, he earned first place for chicken showmanship. And 6 students from Gorman volunteered at the fair. So it was a great representation from our Gorman FFA crew. And then here on the side, you have some updates for classes there. A couple other things that are not on, but I just wanted to bring to your attention. Parent seminars, we're continuing to do those every month. SPED, we're focused on behavior strategies. So it's the parents that they jump on a Zoom with our SPED team and they go over parents, behavior strategies, things you can do in the home or when they're out in public. And then our parent seminar this month was elevating your teaching skills. So we know as parents trying to teach our students, sometimes we don't have the training in the background. So doing these seminars allows parents to sort of get a glimpse of what are some of the things that a teacher would do in these situations. So if you're a parent listening and you haven't joined a parent seminar yet, keep your eye open on Parent Square. WASC, Stacy McIntyre and Jana and a group of our educational leaders are working on our WASC report. So that's for SBSC. It's a mid-year report. So we had them come 3 years ago. We're WASC accredited with the mid-year cycle. So that's almost complete. And they will be coming in February to visit. And just some updates for fiscal. We are currently in the middle of our audit. So we are working with the same audit firm we used last year. Fiscal's working diligently, continuing to upload documents that they're asking for, things that they're looking at that they have to look at through the audit report. We continue to use the outside vendor to help with some of those documents. So some of that's taken a little longer than we had anticipated. But so that we're in the middle of that currently. That report will be presented once the findings come out, I believe January, February. I think it has to be presented before January. And if there's any findings or anything like that, they'll let us know how we need to fix those. Hopefully we won't have findings, that it'll be clean. But that's when that's presented in January. First interim, our departments have all turned in their first interim budgets. So next month in December, you will have your first interim budgets to look over and approve. And before that time, I'll make sure that we reach out with the fiscal committee so you guys can have that opportunity to ask questions and go over anything before we actually bring that to the board. And I know last board meeting, I had talked about enrollment numbers possibly having to decrease because we were afraid that we didn't have the teachers to bring all the students on. Well, good news, we were able to bring in all the students on the wait list. We do have students coming in, and we are hiring we're offering 3 teachers positions for AV. So that would alleviate some of those teachers that are carrying over. It is, they've been excellent, wonderful, being able to take on some extra families, extra students just to get them in. But it is a lot of work. So hopefully by the second semester starts, we'll be able to alleviate some of those rosters. So then that way they have the time with their families and those new teachers can be on board and we can fill in for all those students that want to enroll with us. So those are my updates. Thank you.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Olivia, for that presentation. And thank you to all the resource centers. I love when you guys send in pictures that are presented on these reports. It makes my heart very happy to see the direction that Gorman is heading in and just the impact that we're having on the community. So keep up the good work. Now moving on to item 11, information, discussion, action agenda. Review, discussion, and approval of appointment of new board member presented by yours truly. So I am pleased to nominate Shannon Beck for a position on our school board. Shannon has a longstanding commitment to supporting her children's education and brings a strong foundation in board service, having served on the Leona Cox Elementary School Board for 4 years and in her previous condo association for 6 years. Her understanding of board operations and dedication to enhancing the educational experience will be a valuable assets to us. With 7 years in the Gorman community, Shannon has firsthand knowledge from a parent's perspective, along with the varied skills and experiences that make her a well-rounded candidate. I believe she demonstrates a genuine commitment to serving on our school board, and I believe she will be an excellent addition to the board. So I ask the board if I can have a motion to approve her to serve on the board.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second the motion.
I'm Amber and I approve. Angela,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Dina.
Aye.
The ayes have it. So Shannon, we will be swearing you in officially at our next board meeting in December. So thank you so much, and we look forward to meeting you in person. Moving on to review, discussion, and approval of the GLCN federal addendums, Jana Walker.
I said, good evening, everyone. It's nice to be here with all of you. So federal addendum, we actually had a review and discussion of this item back in May or even possibly in June this year. Typically, these do not need to be approved because if there are no major changes, then they're just presented for an overview and a reminder of how we are utilizing federal funds to serve various student populations. After our federal addendum review back this spring, we submitted a CARS application. If you guys remember the CONAP consolidated application, we did apply for Title III funds. And as a result, we had to revisit this portion of Title III. So everything else on this document is exactly the same as what you saw in the spring. But if you are looking at the board packet and you want to scroll down to page 34, you'll see the beginning of the narrative that we added in to account for how we would be spending Title III funds. Title III has to do with our English learner population. You can see here, are we going to be able to show? Okay, I'll wait just a moment while we're pulling that up so we can all see the same thing together. But basically, in order to receive federal funds, the CONAP works hand in hand with the federal addendum. So when you're applying for the funds, the programs will review how you stated you would be spending the money that you receive. And so we needed to make sure to update this so that as they're processing our application, they're clear on what it is that we would utilize these funds for. So here we'll go down bottom of 34, and for anybody else following along, the text box is in yellow. So if you want to scroll down to the bottom. We won't go through all of this text. Hopefully you had an opportunity to read through it, but this first section for Part A has to do with professional development, meaning how are we supporting our teachers, principals, and other school leaders in terms of serving the English learner population. And all of this is updated with the most recent information available from our EL department. So I work together with our EL coordinator and with our director, Stacy McIntyre, to ensure that it's up to date and accurate. If you scroll down to enhanced instructional opportunities, you'll see how in our independent study model, we are serving these students with available curriculum and materials. A little further down for the Title III programs and activities, this is an overview of how our EL program currently functions. And finally, the final section under this title is how we are supporting our students towards English proficiency and academic achievement. So I realize I didn't spend time going through a list, but I want to make sure you have adequate time to review. If there's any questions, I'll open it up for any other comments related to this title. And if not, then I would ask the board for a motion to approve the changes to the federal addendum for both GLC and SBSC.
I'll motion to approve.
I'll second.
I'm Amber and I approve. Angela,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Tina,
Aye.
the ayes have it. Motion approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 11C, review, discussion, and approval of the GLCN salary schedule presented by our Director of Human Resources and Executive Director Olivia Duran and Sylvia Montejo.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Today I'm presenting the salary schedules. The purpose of the presentation is for recommendation item. The recommendation was a result of a CalSTRS audit finding. The audit was performed in March of 2024. The result of the audit were 3 findings. Which include member earnings not being reported for part-time employees, and eligible members not being enrolled. So as part of addressing the findings, one of the recommendations was to clearly differentiate between certificated and classified salaries and corresponding job descriptions. So today we're requesting that the board approves the action item for the salary schedules. I have an addendum. This is a replacement to one of the sheets. The last 2 items were cut off from the original document. And so,
Sylvia, so sorry. You
yes.
said this was a replacement to one of the existing sheets?
yes,
The last 2
The last
items
2
in
items.
the board packet, it was there, it was just cut off in the board packet.
Okay.
So she wanted to make sure you guys had the full.
Got it. Thank you.
you're welcome. So at this time, what the recommendation included, again, is to separate certificated from classified. One of the items that was the major concern were the positions of facilitators, because that position was originally identified as certificated and classified in one same job description. So we separated those into different categories to make sure that we're in compliance. And we also took the opportunity to remove any dollar amounts that are under minimum wage, as it would imply that we're currently paying employees under minimum wage state law. And so we are requesting that the board approves the revised salary schedules.
I have a question. How is it? Why were earnings not reported, I guess is my question, to be where we're at, to where we're gonna have to possibly pay fines?
So there's 2 retirement systems for the state of California, specifically for school districts. There's PERS and STRS. PERS is for classified employees. STRS is for certificated or credentialed. We have one specific job description for facilitator, And in the body of the job description, it encumbered both of these combined. So anyone could apply, anyone with a bachelor's, anyone with a credential, and it was just kind of very vague, and it was a combination of both of them. So the agency that is coming in to do the audit is CalSTRS, which is representing credentialed members. And because they're representing credentialed members, they also want to make sure that they're collecting from anyone who is part of that membership. So because we had some employees that were paying into PERS and not STRS, because again, that job description was a little bit convoluted. So some of those positions were the ones that failed to pay into STRS. And now we're at a situation where STRS is doing an audit to make sure that they're collecting all of the funding, all of the retirement for those specific jobs. Part of the audit is the findings, correcting the findings. If we do not correct them, we do risk the possibility of getting fined, and it's typically it's a $500 fine per person per situation. So it's still, we're still working with them to determine the amount of the fine. So there's fines associated, and also they would probably want to collect any retirement amounts that were owed to them as a result of the correction.
So basically, they were all being reported. You guys did what you did needed to report it. It was just a matter of which way did it need to go, left or right, basically.
And just a little background on this, I know I've hit on it here and there in different board meetings. Sometimes the CALS, like in the past, it's been easy classified certificated, but now they're actually looking at the job duties themselves. So if they're looking, they look at our facilitators and they say, wait, this is like a teacher that needs to be in CalSTRS. And of course, CalSTRS wants their money. So now they want to pull them all into Cal. And we're not the only school. I think even when the CBO was here, a couple years ago, it was sort of the beginning of them looking, and we knew that it was going to come. We just didn't know how. So there was 3 findings. One of them we agreed to. The other 2 are in appeals right now. We have our lawyers working on appealing them, because there's other schools that are also appealing those findings, because typically it's classified, they didn't tell us ahead of time, hey, this is moving forward, this is how we're going to look at this, or this is how they need to be reported. So the one finding we've already paid up, we've already, settled with that. It was 3 employees. They've been notified, and the other 2 findings, those ones are ones that we're in the middle of appealing. So helps it to be. Right.
It helps rectify the existing issues, and then moving forward, it would be corrected.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second. This is Dina.
Thank you. I'm Amber and I approve. Angela? Aye. David?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Dina?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Motion approved.
Can I just discuss or say something, or do I need to wait? It's about the salary schedule. Or no? Okay.
Okay, we would like to reconvene to tonight's closed session. It is now 4:46 PM.